Hello everyone, I'm Case Banks with our Decision 2024 coverage of the mayor's race here in Lubbock. Joining me right now is Antonio Renteria.
Yes.
You'll see that on the ballot, one of 6 on the ballot. So thanks for being with us. Go ahead and introduce yourself to the voters.
Well, thank you for having me. Actually, I'm number 6 on the ballot, so I'm the very last one on the rolls. But I'm Antonio Renteria. I'm a lifelong resident of Lubbock. I actually grew up in the Arnett Benson from about age 4 and a half, through high school, and between there and grew up some as I got a little older, moved out to East Lubbock and then into the Overton area and stuff. And now, obviously, I'm raising a family and raising my kids. But so I've been here a very long time, been involved in the political process for a very long time, but really on the other side, the grassroots side. So I've been in the trenches trying to help people get elected. From really from the time I was 17, I've been involved in every political election one way or another, at the city, the school, the county level, the state, and even for presidency. So I've been very, very involved.
And so besides that experience, kind of tell me about your background.
Okay, well, by trade, I'm an accountant. I'm the COO, CFO of Texas Power Suppliers. So we're a power line installation company, and we do work for like LP&L and several of the oil companies and stuff. So our company does that. I do all of the accounting work in the background of it. Before that, I worked at several other companies for a very long time. I was with KeyCorp and some others, so I understand the, and I was actually also on the UMC, Board of Governors, and I worked with Carl Lyset at one time as his legislative director during the time when we worked on the state budget. So this is kind of like right up my alley, but on a city level.
And so tell me about those top issues that you're talking about in your campaign and hope to accomplish if you take office.
Obviously, and I've been saying this from the very beginning, I'm very concerned about the crime rate in Lubbock. I think it's something that we really need to address. So, our police force, they're underpaid, they're understaffed, they're overworked. Same thing with the firefighters, first responders, and they're among the lowest paid in the state, and we have some of the highest crime rates in the state. So I want to be able to address that for sure. And of course, we have some other issues that popped up. One of them is, they've already sold off one part of LP&L. My concern is that the part we have left, that we maintain that, because LP&L, now you have these utilities that are going into every household in the city. If we privatize that, we lose control of that. So yeah, it's make a quick buck right now, but LP&L is starting to generate some pretty nice revenues that will continue going on for a very long time. So, you have the long-term effect, the impact of the finances that will be bringing in. But also, if you're really taking a solid look at it, we have control over the utilities. So if you privatize this, then you start running into a situation where, the company, the private company, can make a decision that could be detrimental to all of us. So, well, let's just jump into these rolling blackouts or things that you start seeing in other areas. Big example would be what happened out in the Panhandle area with the fires. The solution that XL came out and said was, well, in the future when there's a storm, we'll just shut everything down. Well, why don't you repair the areas that you're weak on first and look at the infrastructure that's in place and make sure that is capable of handling a storm, rather than say, well, just shut it down, because you don't want to invest the money in the infrastructure. So here, LP&L has been doing that, and obviously we're one of the companies that contracts with them, but I like the idea of having the municipality control the utilities rather than a private company. And everything else, I like private control. But when you're talking about every one of our homes, I think we need to look at that.
So I just want to make sure when it comes to any decision like that, you mentioned you're involved, or your company that you're working for is involved with that. So would you, take a step back, make sure you're not having any conflict of
we wouldn't.
interest
Obviously,
there?
I would step out of that process. You have to. But the one thing that it allows me to do is it gives me, the ability to say these are the things that we have to look at, as far as on, do we want to sacrifice control of the utilities and cede it to a private company or not? So that's something, obviously, that when it came to the vote, yeah, I would step out of that. But you also would want to make sure you have the people in that could show both sides of this, rather than just say, oh, this is a great profit maker, and let's jump in and do that. So those are things that we would obviously have to look at. But when it came to the actual vote, yeah, I have to.
Okay. Let's go back to what you were talking about, the crime rate. Actually, the interim chief just yesterday, at the time of this recording, talked about the crime rate, at least between 2022 and 23, going down. So do you see that the police department may be doing something right?
No,
or
well,
what
the police department has been doing a lot of things right. They're still understaffed, they're still underpaid. And keep in mind, when you're comparing what happened last year, when we had the hire that we put in that place, they're missing 30,000, 911 calls there. It was a different situation with very, very bad oversight. The management, it was just mismanaged horribly. And you're taking into consideration what he has done as a chief. Now, if he would stay, that'd be great. I think we have some really good candidates coming in. My personal favorite, tomorrow's a Seth out of Midland. I think he would do a great job because he understands the dynamic, working under Tommy Gonzalez there on what he would be seeing out here. So there are personal preferences that I would have when it comes to the new chief that I think, obviously I would defer that decision, to the next council, but then the city manager makes that decision anyway. He can make it whenever he wants. But as far as the crime rate dropping, yeah, of course it's dropping from what it was before, but we're still at the top of the state in crime. So it's getting better, but we still need more boots on the ground out there, and we need to stop losing our officers to other cities that are smaller than us, way smaller.
So, of course, that requires funding for the police department. Where do you see the city's revenue coming from?
Well, we had 2 infrastructure projects that were shut down that should never have. There were 2 student housing projects right off of campus that would have generated a lot of revenue for the city, and the hundreds of millions as far as circulating, but plenty of money within the city to operate both to really fund the raises and the for both the firefighters and the first responders. So we can't keep turning down those situations. And one of the candidates was actually, the catalyst of doing that. So we can't run as HOA president. We're here to run as mayor of the city of Lubbock. And we have to look at the greater good and the revenue that would have generated. We definitely need to do that. The other thing we need to do is start looking at the core services that a city is supposed to provide. Now, keep in mind, we live in very, very, terrible inflationary times. You have a president that can't stop spending money, especially sending it to other countries. We have a flood of illegals, coming through our southern border at an alarming rate, and we're having to fight off all of that and fund keeping those people in wherever they are against our, basically against our better judgment. But what that's doing is it's killing the economy, because inflation is not going to start lowering anytime soon. Hopefully it will once Trump gets in office, but it's still going to take some time. But when you have this amount of money that is being spent out there, and you have prices are going up, so people can't afford, to pay their rent, pay their utilities, especially when you're talking about lower income people. We need to generate a way where within the city we look at what the needs are and what the government should be spending money on, and everything else we need to start cutting. And it may not be popular, but there's going to be areas that aren't core services that we need to really look at and say, in these times when people don't have the money to pay for their own things, why are we paying on those?
Do you have an idea of what you may cut?
You start looking at all of the different libraries, for instance. We need to cut back on the funding of those. Those get very expensive. There's several other aspects of it. If you take a look at the budget, like we have, different positions that don't make any sense, and like different coaches for different here or there that are, just different projects that we're doing. Obviously, this is something where, and I grabbed the budgets the other day, and it's 2 thick books about that thick. And in every department, and when you start looking at things that if they're not directly involved with what we need as like our public safety, you know, our first responders, for instance, you know, police force, the utilities that keep our houses going, you know, just different things that, you know, upkeeping of the parks and the things that don't necessarily involve what a government is supposed to do, what we have signed on, and when we pay our taxes, we expect the government to spend money in much the same way we would. If we start looking at these other projects that are outside that scope, we need to start saying, are these things that should be privately funded? And we start encouraging people to start doing that, and you start scaling back the city control of it. Or are these things that the city has to have to help with the citizenry and what we are doing as a function of government?
So we talked about, you know, ways that you would want to sort of change the city if you take office. What's something that you're proud of, folks should be proud of about the city of Lubbock and living and working here?
Well, I tell you, you know, the people of Lubbock are fantastic. And that's one of the main reasons I'm running, is because I care about this city so much. You know, there's a caring nature to what we have here. That's one of the reasons, again, that I want our people to be able to do is let their kids play outside. Let them go to a park and play, you know, enjoy the summer activities and not worry about the crime going on around them. So Lubbock has always been a good place to live, to raise a family. You know, we have great churches and several all across the city. So we're known as a Bible Belt, you know, obviously I'm very, very proud of that. My faith is what drives me. But also, you know, within the services that we have and the people that are there, like whether it's the firefighters, the police officers, or somebody that works at one of the city departments, there's always this air of you know, welcome. It's a welcoming nature that we have that I'm very proud of Lubbock having, that you don't see in a lot of places you go. And I've been all over the country. And sometimes you're so used to being able to have that camaraderie with everybody, even with people, you know, in government or you know, in elected office. And it seems like everybody's always genuinely happy to see you. And I would hate for us to lose that. And I think in this particular time and age, you know, the way that you're seeing the world going, that is the one thing we have over pretty much every other city. You don't see a lot of, you know, the chaos that is impeding us so much. Now, it can creep in here, obviously, with this Prop A and some other things. It could create some real problems if we put the wrong person in office. And that's another reason why I decided to run, is I wanted to make sure that we had some good viable candidates representative of what Lubbock needs. You know, and I think at this, besides myself, I think we have a couple others. Again, philosophical differences that I have with, you know, with each candidate, smaller ones. On one of them, it's huge. But you know, at the end of the day, I think we all want to do what's in the best interest of the city of Lubbock. Just have different approaches.
All right, Antonio Renteria, thanks
Yes.
so much for being with us.
Thank you for having me. I appreciate it.
And early voting continues until April 30th. Election day is May 4th, and be sure to join us on May 4th for election coverage you can count on.